So I just want you to know that we're out there, and we're real people, and we believe in something that is far, far, far greater than anything you've ever seen on TV, anything you've ever read about in any book about Islam. Is far greater than that. It's far more beautiful than that. God is far greater than anything you've ever tried to imagine in your mind. The mind cannot comprehend it. Cannot begin. It's like casting a drop off your fingertip in the ocean. Doesn't do justice. Muhammad, peace be upon him, is a man like you've never read about. This is why we got so angry when they wrote these cartoons about him in Denmark. Maybe a lot of us overreacted. Yes, we overreacted. But if someone insulted your mother, most of us probably would overreact, just because we love them so much. We love him so much because he gave us this pure religion, this great way of life that has changed me from being somebody that nobody wanted to be around to somebody who now wants to be around everyone, because I want them to know where I've been and what I've come through. I'm going to finish with a statement of Bernard Shaw, who many of you may have read his works. He said about Muhammad in Islam, peace be upon him, that if a man like Muhammad were to assume leadership of the world today, he would solve every single problem. He would solve every single one of his problems during his afternoon cup of tea. This was this man, and this was the religion. I can't remember his name off the top of my head. A man, it was just there, wrote a book called The Ranking 100, the most 100 influential people in history. Michael Hart. He's a Christian. He chose Muhammad as number one. He said, because if you want to know what it means to have smallness of means but greatness of purpose, then go look at Muhammad. And go look at the religion he found. You find it there. But that's what I'm conveying to you. I'm conveying to you the statements of your colleagues, non-Muslims. Just go do the research for yourself. Like Napoleon said, what can it hurt you? What can it hurt you? It can either be an interesting study that may lead you to understand 10 million people in this country a lot better, and 2 billion people in the world a lot better, and growing. Or you may find the truth. And what an amazing, amazing find that would be. For such a little sacrifice is opening a book, picking up some papers, meeting a couple people. I thank you for your time.
أشرف الأعراب والعجم خير من يمشي على قدمه.
Michael Hart, the American author of the wide-selling book The 100, a ranking of the most influential persons in history, chose Prophet Muhammad to be at the top of the list. He said,
"My choice of Muhammad to lead the list of the world's most influential persons may surprise some readers and may be questioned by others. But he was the only man in history who was supremely successful on both the religious and secular levels. It is this unparalleled combination of secular and religious influence which I feel entitles Muhammad to be considered the most influential single figure in human history."
أشرف الأعراب والعجم خير من يمشي على قدمه.
Many international intellectuals were impressed with Prophet Muhammad's personal qualities and expressed it in their writings. Lamartine, the famous French historian, in his book The History of the Turks, said about Prophet Muhammad,
"If greatness of purpose, smallness of means, and outstanding results are the 3 criteria of human genius, who could dare to compare any great man in modern history with Muhammad?"
Mahatma Gandhi, the spiritual leader of the Indian independence movement and the pioneer of resistance through mass civil disobedience, said about Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him.
I became more than convinced that it was not the sword that won a place for Islam in those days in the scheme of life. It was the rigid simplicity, the utter self-effacement of the Prophet, the scrupulous regard for pledges, his intense devotion to his friends and followers, his intrepidity, his fearlessness, his absolute trust in God and in his own mission.
Wolfgang Goethe, one of the key figures of German literature and one of the most famous European poets, who was also a painter, humanist, scientist, and philosopher, said about Prophet Muhammad,
"He is a prophet and not a poet, and therefore his Qur'an is to be seen as a divine law and not as a book of a human being, made for education or entertainment."
أشرف الأعراب والعجم خير من يمشي على قدمه باسط المعروف جامعة صاحب الإحسان والكرم تاج رسل الله قاطبة صادق الأقوال والكلم خبيت بالنور طينته.
I ask you, if all the Bibles in the world were thrown in the ocean, who would produce the Bible again? Nobody could, because they don't even agree about what the Bible is now. But if all the Qur'ans were thrown into the ocean right now, all of them, we could produce the Qur'an all over again. We could bring a Chinese Hafiz, memorizer of the Qur'an, a Russian memorizer of the Qur'an, an American memorizer of the Qur'an, a German memorizer of the Qur'an, who didn't even know each other. They would all come here together, and in 2 days, they could all recite simultaneously, and the Qur'an is back again. This book was revealed to an illiterate prophet. That means an unlettered prophet. 1424 years ago. It was memorized over a period of 23 years. It was revealed, and it was memorized by the prophet himself, peace and blessing be upon him, and it was memorized by several of his companions, and he reviewed their memorization of it, and the angel Gabriel that brought it to him reviewed his memorization of it. And so when the prophet, peace and blessing be upon him, passed away, there were several companions of his that had memorized this whole Qur'an under his review. And since that time, millions of Muslims have memorized the Qur'an in every age. And I almost guarantee you that there's probably at least 2 or 3 or 4 Muslims in this gathering here that have memorized this whole Qur'an or the greater portion of it. And another miracle of this Qur'an that cannot be said for any other book is that if all the Bibles, if all the Talmuds, if all the Hindu scriptures, all the Buddhist scriptures, if all those books were thrown in the ocean, if all those people of those religions agreed, throw them all in the ocean, and then we Muslims, we threw all the Qur'ans in the ocean also. The Qur'an is the only one that in a matter of a day or 2 would be brought right back, because it has been memorized from cover to cover. No one else can say that, because no one else really even agrees to the completion or what is completely the Bible or any other book. So the Qur'an is its own miracle. Although there are miracles of the Qur'an and miracles of the Prophet Muhammad, peace and blessing be upon him, the real miracle of the Qur'an is the Qur'an itself.
The Sahaba radiallahu anhum, they recited Qur'an, and that was the only source of knowledge for them. They didn't know anything else. Before Islam, they